but my name tag says Pratt because I'm really bad at deciding like which name I actually want to go by. So here it's usually Pratt, but they told me to identify myself as Haley, so here we go. I wanted to start this talk with a really crazy story, like Ashton's, because she's seen like 18 dead bodies and been in like bar fights and like it's actually really cool, but I'm not. I think I'm kind of thankful for that one. So instead I'm going to give some fun facts about me so we can all get to know each other better. My first fun fact is I went to high school with the water bottle flip kid, like the one who went viral. That was my senior talent show actually, and we were voted most spirited high school seniors, RGCal class of 2016. So like, I'm famous, I'll give autographs after. Let's see, one time my face was on the Jumbotron at Gillette Stadium, which is the Patriots' home field or something. I wouldn't know I wasn't there. Yeah, sort of a long story on that one. I was in a hype video for the Naval Academy, like lacrosse team, a couple years ago, and I don't go to the Naval Academy, nor do I play lacrosse. I just was deemed hype enough to be in their hype video because I cheered at enough of their games. The parents took videos of me and turned it into the athletic department. That's probably my peak, I won't lie. Let's see. One time I jumped off a cliff because that's what my friends were doing. Sorry, Mom. Also, it was several times. The moral of that fun fact is do what your friends are doing because it's definitely fun. Unless your friends are doing crack, then listen to your mom. So, you know how some people don't eat things unless they know all of the ingredients, they know exactly what it is? Yeah, so I try not to eat things that I can't spell because nothing should be more complex than the word hot dog or asparagus. Quinoa, I'm looking at you. So, now that we know me a little better, let's actually get into this. Shit, you can shake your head all you want, I'm not eating quinoa. Okay, so, when I was told I got to give the talk tonight, I was initially super excited. I love bread, and anyone knows me knows I love talking. But another thing I love is completely winging it, and that wasn't allowed because I needed to actually have an idea of something when I met with Ashton about this last week. So my first instinct was to text my teammates. I texted them, boys, I have a big task for you. Give me your favorite Bible story. I'm interested in your answers. Then I remembered it needed to be about Jesus because we're covering encounters with Jesus this semester. So I added in a quick, preferably a story about Jesus. The results were interesting. Responses ranged from Christmas or Easter, because those are the ones I know best, totally fair, to when he healed leopards, which is almost right, to when he turned water into wine. That was his best one for sure. I really should have been expecting an answer like that from college juniors. I don't know what I expected. So deciding to abandon all of these ideas, I tried to think about what I actually know about Jesus. To be honest, all I know is that he's kind of a weird guy. If you've really read the Gospels, you'll find some strange quotes like Matthew 4:19, where Jesus says, "Come follow me, and I will send you to fish for people." As a kid, this quote freaked me out a little. 7-year-old me was suddenly picturing men running around with fishing nets, like trying to grab whoever the slowest person was. Like, Bartholomew has asthma? Get him. Welcome to the Following Jesus Club, Bartholomew. Like, that's simple. So without context, that quote's pretty weird. With context, also pretty weird. So let's go into that. This was when Jesus first met Peter and Andrew. This is a fun interaction for a few reasons. First, the Bible doesn't tell us if he'd actually ever met them before, like in his whole life. It says Jesus was just walking along the Sea of Galilee, which basically means he was enjoying a long walk on the beach. And he sees two guys casting a net into the lake and decides, this is the perfect time for me to yell about following me so that they can fish for people. I'm not sure what's more weird, the fact that he shouted into a sea or that the people were like, yeah, okay. It's a slow Monday, I don't know. So then I was thinking about it and I was like, this is like the biblical version of a pyramid scheme. This person you don't know slides into your DMs, telling you to follow them, and you'll be able to get more people to follow you. And more people will follow those people, and so on and so forth, until, boom, you're promoting a product with all of your friends. We've all definitely heard of that one before, and honestly, I think Christianity is the most successful pyramid scheme to ever happen. Plus, I'm no expert, but I think it's the only one that actually gets eternal life. One guy recruits 12 other guys, and then 2,000-ish years later, all of a sudden there's like 2.18 billion followers, I don't know. He might have said things a bit strangely, but boy did this guy know how to build a brand. Not really sure this is what Ashton intended when she said I was giving the talk, but let's keep going. So, as I read the Bible growing up, I realized that verse in Matthew wasn't the only place where Jesus said something I couldn't quite make sense of at the time. So take Luke 12:22 and 23. Here, Jesus was talking to a crowd of thousands of people, super popular, giving them instructions on how to live a godly life and speaking in parables, which is a fancy word for stories that give everyone a headache because Jesus refuses to give straight answers. At one point, he takes a break from giving his speech, and he turns to his disciples and tells them this: "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes." Now, I don't normally completely ignore something the Son of Man has told me to do. But what? Don't worry about what I eat. I'm literally hypoglycemic. It's just not good. Don't worry about what I wear. These Crocs are name brand. Like, the overall message about not worrying about my life and body, bold of you to assume I have that good of a handle on my anxiety, Jesus. In all seriousness, this passage has always been incredibly difficult for me to understand. I was that kid who was so scared of fire alarms, I trained myself to hear the click, and I would have my hands over my ears before the light actually lit up and the alarm got loud. It was pretty cool, I think, but no one else did. Crowds make me more nervous than I'd like to admit, which actually caused me to tear up a little bit at my high school graduation. I was not sentimental, I was ready to go. I just was super uncomfortable because there were like 1,000 people there. Mardi Gras is my worst nightmare. I don't know why Emory keeps going. I definitely wasn't the most nervous kid on the planet, but I 100% had my moments of worry growing up. This passage always stuck out to me because I could never fully grasp the idea of just not worrying. Then, my freshman year at Emory, I was thrown for a little bit of a loop. I was doing pretty well in classes, hanging out at Bread, having so much fun in soccer. I hadn't even heard a fire alarm in months. Then, that spring, actually 2 years ago today, fun fact, I received a nasty kick to the head during a training drill gone wrong. It was a complete accident, but all of a sudden I was severely concussed, missing class, and out for the spring season with the team. I was trying to finish out my school year while juggling symptoms like can't remember where her shoes are and has to wear shades indoors even though she's not a hungover frat boy. Soccer and school were the main parts of my identity, and they were both taken away instantly. I was really struggling to find my way back to where I was in both. Fast forward through a summer full of naps and working my way back, and we get to sophomore me. I was back, kind of. To say I was struggling in classes was an understatement. I was excited to finally be back playing with my team, but I was getting all these weird injuries, like I had to get my hip drained from this blunt force trauma that normally happens to people in motorcycle injuries, but all I did was just play soccer a lot. Also, I broke a hand, but that one was normal. Let's see, I passed the concussion testing when I came in, but something still was obviously not right. I was on edge a lot, always feeling like I'd forgotten something or that something wasn't right. I spoke to a team doctor who spoke to a concussion specialist, who then sent me to the Shepherd Center so they could run some tests on me. After 5 long hours of testing, the psychologist told me they were diagnosing me with anxiety, among other things, and they were going to pull me from soccer again to make sure that my brain was on the right recovery path. So it turns out, after a traumatic brain injury, women are more likely to develop anxiety and depression, which can, surprise, surprise, hinder recovery back to sports. So I went from being a slightly nervous kid to a slightly more nervous kid, a little bit more nervous kid. The bad news, that verse from Luke that always had stuck out to me now made even less sense. It felt like a slap in the face. How could Jesus tell me not to worry when I felt like my whole life was falling apart? My grades were tanking. I was in the middle of changing my major. I wasn't able to play the sport I love. I felt like I'd never got back to where or who I was. The verse sounded like a load of bull from a guy who'd never had to question who he was on a daily basis. The good news, I had doctors and teammates and training staff and Ashton and Alicia and every person at Bread looking out for me. I began learning how to form an identity that wasn't just based around school or soccer. All of my anxiety was making me stress out about things that don't matter as much in the eyes of God. I was worried about my grades, worried about returning to playing sports, I'm worried about how I could possibly do those things while being a little bit of an anxious mess of a human. And it was that time where I really didn't have all of my life together that I realized I actually did have everything I'd ever need. After a while, Jesus was starting to make a little bit of sense. He says, "For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes." I started to think about it in a less literal sense because knowing Jesus, he didn't specifically mean food and clothes, and nothing is ever literal. He was talking about material things that aren't as important in his eyes. Maybe school wasn't going as well as I'd liked, and maybe I wasn't playing as much soccer as I wanted, but worrying about those things was a waste because God gave me something better. I had the best support system on the planet. I have a team full of goons like Shiv who still laugh at my jokes after 3 long years. I have best friends I've made at this school that I'll keep for the rest of my life. I have a girlfriend who loves me probably more than I deserve, and I have a family who I adore. As cheesy as it is, life truly is more than food or clothes or a GPA or stats on the field or fire alarms that still scare me even though I'm 20 and I should have grown out of that. When Jesus tells us not to worry, it's not because he doesn't want us to worry at all. It's because we sometimes worry about and focus on the wrong things. And it's so incredibly important that we keep that in mind. I was so focused on freaking out about failing calculus, I was missing out on the relationships I had with those around me. The 2 commandments Jesus gave us were to love God and love one another. That verse in Luke is just a reminder from the big man himself to focus on the most important thing in life, love. And I'm not saying that verse magically cured my anxiety. We're all Emory kids, we know that's not how it works. Believe me, I wish it was that easy. I struggle to keep my heart rate down over the littlest things. I had my first full-blown anxiety attack earlier this spring. Anxiety's so rude, so rude. But making an effort to focus my energy on love has made a massive difference in my life. So, here I am, a nervous kid who still thinks Jesus spoke like a weirdo. But he was a weirdo who gave me the wake-up call I needed. To worry about the right things in life, and that means remembering to love and enjoy all that I've been given. So, we normally leave you with 3 questions, and we definitely didn't write them down tonight, so I hope you guys are all auditory learners. Have you considered that you might be focusing too much of your energy on the wrong things? Have you considered that you are more than just your accomplishments? And have you considered that the people around you might be able to help you and love you more than you think? Thanks.